So, welcome everybody to the call. And, people on this call are people who are consultants and they're business coaches and they're trainers and they're other professional service businesses. And the thing that they all have in common and why they're on their call is they want to attract more clients more consistently. And, the first thing to know about marketing is challenging. Marketing is complicated. Marketing has a lot of moving parts. Marketing is not necessarily easy. And, one of the reasons, probably the big reason these days marketing is so challenged, and it's not that marketing hasn't always been challenging to some degree. I mean, I've been in this business for 34 years, is that there are more options for marketing than there have ever been in the world. There's just so many things. I mean, I get so many emails about this program or that program. There's a new website that will teach you how to do video, and then something that will teach you how to do better SEO and drive people to your course. And, tons of stuff is online teaching you so many different things. And you're trying to figure out, well, what should I do? And it becomes overwhelming. And often what people do, people call me and say, Robert, I need help with my marketing. I say, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm hardly doing anything. I'm just kind of overwhelmed. I don't know what to do or where to start, or I've been doing something for a long time and it really hasn't really worked very effectively for me. What the heck do I do? So one of the first things I've discovered, or I've really noticed this for some time, is that people then tend to do marketing randomly. So I call it the random marketing paradigm. And the random marketing paradigm works something like this. Well, I'll do a little bit here. So I'll post on LinkedIn, and I'll do posts on LinkedIn. Maybe I should do some videos on LinkedIn. No, maybe I should put some articles on LinkedIn. So we do a little spotty thing there. And then, no, I think I need to improve my SEO for my website more. And we go through that a little bit. And then maybe we get an opportunity to do a speaking engagement. Maybe we get a client we say, oh, that's a pretty good idea. I should have more speaking engagements. But it's just sort of one thing here and then another thing here. Or, gee, maybe I should reach out to my existing clients and ask for referrals. And we do a tiny bit of that here. So we're sort of all over the place. We're one thing here and one thing there and all over here, and it's kind of random. And the problem with the random marketing approach is that nothing goes deep enough to really build momentum, build a name, build visibility, build credibility, and you just sort of have low-level kind of visibility. When I started my business, there was no internet. There was no email, for God's sake, back in 1984. It's hard to even imagine. There was none of that. What there was for marketing is getting out there and networking, calling up people, following up on people, and doing talks and presentations, writing articles, sending newsletters. And I used to do all of that stuff. But, if you did, but some people I remember, they belong to a networking group, and you'd see them once in a while, and you never really get to know them, and you never hear what they do. When I did networking, I remember I joined the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce way back when, in the late 80s, and I attended every single meeting I could possibly go to. There was a leads group within the San Francisco Chamber, and I went to that, and I went to the events, and I got involved, and et cetera, and I met people, and people got to know me, and I was a known factor in the San Francisco Chamber of Commerce. As a result, I attracted a lot of clients that way. So instead of randomly trying to do a lot of things, I went deep. And then I started to get into speaking, and I do some talks, and it was like, wow, this is better than networking. All the attention is on me and my ideas. Wow, that's great. And so I would meet people, and I would get their cards, and I would follow up with them, and I went deep with that. So, part of the reason I was able to do this is I said, I got to succeed at this. I'm not employable. I don't want to work for somebody in a company. I like doing my own thing and being creative and doing that kind of stuff. So I read over, a 10-year period or so, close to 500 books on business, marketing, selling, personal growth, management, you name it, everything I could. And I was always getting ideas and then trying new things. So I started to develop a different kind of approach to marketing than the random all over the place marketing approach. And what I call that is I created marketing campaigns. So a marketing campaign, or a campaign, is defined as working in an organized and active way towards a particular goal. So you hear about marketing campaigns or military campaigns. It's kind of like putting on a theatrical production is a campaign. I mean, there's so many different pieces to it. You have to figure out, well, what's the idea for the play? And then the play gets written, and then there's a script, and then you interview actors. You screen actors, and then you choose your actors, and then you build all the sets, and then you do endless rehearsals. So there's not just 4 or 5 or 6 steps. There's 127 steps that you have to do. Ultimately, you put on a play, and there it is. So a marketing campaign is sort of like a mini theatrical production. It's like, well, where am I going, and what am I going to do, and what are all the pieces, and how do you put it all together? So I was thinking of this just last week. How do I think about this? And one way to think of it is you have 5 pillars in marketing. I actually have a little diagram here. So you see these 5 pillars? So I like sort of visual metaphors. 5 pillars, and the pillars are goal, program, clients, message, and strategy. And I'm going to talk about those. See, what we want to have, what you want to have in your marketing campaign, in your marketing, is a 5-pillar strategy. And you have to be very solid with these 5 pillars. It's just like holding up a building. If any of the pillars are weak, the building collapses. And it just doesn't happen. Every one of them have to be strong. And then when I sit down and talk to clients and say, well, what's your plan? There are no pillars. And you wonder why their marketing isn't working. Virtually no pillars whatsoever. What they do have going for them, usually, or I don't even take them as clients, is they have a good service. They do take care of clients. They know what they're doing. But as far as the other pillars, it's just missing in action. So the first pillar is your goal. So we need to have a specific goal, not a goal like, gee, it would be nice if I attracted more clients. I'd like to maybe make 100,000 a year. That's really not a goal. It's kind of a vague wish. So you want to have a goal that's very specific for the campaign. So I'm going to give you just an example of I'm going to use this one campaign that I used. It was probably my most successful. It was my mastery program. I did the mastery program 2009, 10, 11, and 12. I did it for 4 years straight. And in that program, I attracted 18 to 20 clients per program. People paid me $1,000 per month. I filled the program in about 2 months, and I didn't have to do any marketing for that program for the rest of the year because the program was filled, making me $200,000 to $240,000 a year. And it was based on these 5 pillars. Even though I didn't name them the 5 pillars, it's exactly what I did. So the first was the goal. And I asked myself, well, I need to make more money. I need to pay my mortgage. I want money for retirement. I'd heard about people doing big programs like this. And before this, I'd been doing smaller programs, shorter programs, etc. So I really thought it through, and I bought some materials, and I looked at what other people were doing, and then I came up with the goal. Yes, I'm going to do a group program. It's going to be 1 year. I'm going to have 20 people in it and $1,000 a month. That's a specific goal. And it wasn't just something I came up with in 2 minutes, but I really, really thought about it, and I pictured it, and I saw people being in it, and I saw doing the teleclasses and providing stuff online and all the pieces of it. So you got to have your goal. You got to think about it and nail it down. The next one is, what is the program going to be? So I mentioned that already. I figured the different pieces of it. Before then, we didn't have video conferences, and so it was a teleconference program, but I found a way to do a video component with a shared screen thing, so I threw in that. Then I had a website, and I recorded all the calls, and I had homework, and I had assignments, and I had a whole bunch of things that I provided for people. So I really thought that through. The question was, what do I have to offer? What do I have to put together so I can get maximum results for my clients? So they'll really go from where they are now to where they want to be. So it included one-on-one coaching as well as the group sessions. It included me looking at materials and editing it and giving feedback. It was really involved. This is one reason I didn't continue the past 4 years. I kind of burned out. I was working so ridiculously hard. But on the other hand, I made hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars over a few years. So it was worth it. So what is your program? What is your service? What is that package you're going to sell? And it can't be, again, vague. Well, I sell management consulting services. That's not something I can buy. I can in a way, but it's kind of amorphous. It's kind of vague. It's hard to really to pin it down. Because the next pillar is, who are your clients? Now, my clients have always been pretty much the same. They're independent professionals, consultants, coaches, trainers, some financial planners, and a wide variety of other kinds of consulting companies. And, people that work with people, and people work with companies, do big projects in companies, that kind of thing. So for this mastery program, I said, I want people that are already making $75,000 a year or more. I want people that are already successful and want to take it to the next level, and that will be attracted to the program because there'll be more successful people in that program. So instead of, just anybody can be in it, I was really very picky, and I interviewed everybody and saw if it was right for them. So how clear are you about who your clients are? What kind of companies do they work for? What kind of business are they in? Where are they located geographically? For me, it didn't matter. I had clients all over the world. That didn't matter to me. But some things were very important. And all of this, I can't emphasize this enough, I didn't just keep it in my head. It was written down. And it's not that it has to be written down in a perfect format. I mean, I'm very chaotic in what I do. Now I open up Evernote and I'll write notes, and anytime I'm creating a program, and I write clients will be this, 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 this. And that's enough, just as long as you're clear about the 5 pillars. The fourth one is your marketing message. And your marketing message really is the heart of marketing. It's the heart of marketing because it's what people respond to. Everything else is sort of under the table, and it's what it's all the infrastructure of what you're creating, but now you're putting it out there with your message. So you call it a message or value proposition. I like value proposition because you're saying, I'm going to offer you this program, and here's the value, the bottom line value that you can expect to receive if you do this program. And I can't remember off the top of my head, what was my value proposition? It was a promise it was a guarantee to help you grow your clients. I guaranteed that if you didn't way more than pay for the program, listen to this, but by whatever criteria you chose, then and you didn't reach what you wanted to reach, I'd keep working with you after the program until you reach that. So that was quite risky. I heard somebody had offered a guarantee like that and said, look, if people stick with this program, they're going to get results. And people just had explosive results in the program, so it wasn't a problem. But that was the value proposition. I will help you dramatically increase your marketing effectiveness. So what is it for you? What can you promise? This is where people are very, very hesitant to make a promise, or very unclear about the value proposition. How am I unique? How is it different? How is it special? What will it do for you? You have to think from all those angles. How does it work? And then the value proposition isn't just a verbal soundbite. That's only the tip of the tip of the tip of the iceberg, because it is expressed through written materials, your website, a sales letter, emails that you send out to promote it, any other materials that your potential clients see. It might be videos that you do. All of that is an expression of your message and your value proposition. So people agonize over the perfect soundbite. as if a perfect soundbite would make people jump up and down and buy your services. It won't. It has to be more than that. So, if I could do that, I would just send an email, say, the club, it's $9, blah, 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 sign up. Well, it doesn't work. You have to explain more, tell more, build a case for it. And that's what you do in your message and value proposition. So that's what you put a lot of time and effort and thinking into, perhaps more than anything else. Well, maybe equal to the next one and the final one, which is, what is your marketing strategy? So your marketing strategy is really kind of analogous to the campaign itself. Your marketing strategy is the marketing activity that you will use primarily to fill that program. So my marketing strategy was a combination of emails and teleclasses. And so I sent emails and I announced it to people. Then there was a sales letter on the site. And then I asked people to apply. And then I did teleclasses, and just like this, except a teleconference, not a video. And I simply explained, here's what the program is. This is my intentions for it. This is how it works, et cetera, et cetera. And if you're interested, please apply and we'll talk. So it was a very simple, direct strategy to my email list. Now, these days, everything is online. Everybody's marketing online. People are, trying to build their list, et cetera, et cetera. I cracked the code on that 20 years ago when I started my website in 1997. I launched my e-zine. I started writing an article every single week. I'm doing it 20 years later. And, I was in the right place at the right time with the right message, with the right people. I was very lucky, I really was. But I took that and ran with it, and my list grew to 50,000 people in 5 or 6 years. It was just crazy. And that enabled me to do marketing online. These days, it's harder to build your list. Why? Because, when I was doing this, I like to tell people I invented the industry of marketing coaching for independent professionals. Nobody was doing it before me. Nobody. Then I wrote my Infoguru marketing manual in 1999, and zillions of people read it. 9,000 sales, $600,000 in sales over 10 years. And, tons of people said, well, maybe I should do this. Now I have not only hundreds, but thousands of competitors, some who are a lot smarter than me and younger than me and have more energy than me now, and are just building their list like crazy. But there's a lot of people where building a list is not an easy thing. You don't have the energy to write an e-zine every single week. So you've got to do other things to market yourself. And going the online route, as I wrote in an e-zine just a couple of weeks ago, is not maybe the best thing to do. Maybe it's something to work on for the long term. But you've got to find other strategies, speaking strategies, presentation strategies. Let me give you an example. I have a client in Calgary, Alberta, and he has a website, but he doesn't have much of a list. But Mark does around $800,000 of business a year. I mean, he's really doing well. And so how did he get his clients? Well, he tapped into the Young Presidents Association, or YPO, Young Presidents Organization. One of his clients was a member. He got some connections. He did some presentations to them, and he made that his target market. So finding a target market or an association and being well known in that association and having a lot of visibility in that association gets him very high-end coaching clients. When you're making $800,000 a year and really nothing is online marketing, it's pretty impressive. Now he's doing other things. He's writing books, he writes articles, he has a good website, but it's all the personal connections that he makes that have got him clients. So, everybody's different. You have to figure out what's going to work best for you. So that is the 5-pillar plan. You've got to have a goal, a good, well-developed service or program, know who your clients are exactly, not vaguely, have a really powerful message and value proposition, and have a strategy that will work for you with what you have now. Not gee, I want to build a big list and then someday. Well, it can take quite a long time to do it. What you have now is what you've got to work with, who you know now. Now, I just finished a 1-year program called the Marketing Action Group, Reach Out and Touch Someone. And what we did in that program, one second, was kind of an experiment. I said, look, because I've been working with some clients that were getting results with this strategy, and it's called a direct outreach strategy. A direct outreach strategy is identifying people in your existing network, sending them emails or calling them and say, hey, I have some ideas that have really worked for my clients. I don't know if it's right for you or not, but I'd love to have a conversation with you. Can we chat? And we developed templates for how to put together those emails and what to say on the phone and how to get appointments. And I made a very simple rule, the very simple game plan. The game plan was this: 1 contact per weekday. That's it. And you kept stats on that. So it meant sending an email and then following up, sending another email, getting an appointment. And some worked pretty well and some worked better. Some took a little while. One person who was a doctor who had become a career coach for doctors filled her practice completely in 3 months, only using this strategy. All she did was send emails and follow up and have conversations, and she converted people and had the best month and year she'd ever had in her business just by that. So no fancy internet. No, nothing, just phone and email. So there are so many things that you can do that do work to get clients, but again, not if you do it randomly, if you do it in a focused kind of way. And that is what's missing for people, and that's the issue. So here's the problem. The big problem is too many options, random marketing, etc. But now you've got to build your plan. You've got to have it written down. And you should be able to recite your plan in 60 seconds. My goal is such and such. My program is such and such. Here's who my clients are. My value proposition is this, and here's my strategy. Once you've got it nailed down, you can do it in about 15 seconds. But the point isn't to do it quickly. The point is to have absolute clarity about that plan. And it's a funny thing when you have that absolute clarity, and this, I've done this kind of thing on so many different plans, my marketing action groups, my mastery program, my InfoGuru marketing manual that I marketed online, the Reach Out and Touch Someone program, all of those had a plan like this, and I rolled it out. Now, the current plan is which I'm going to get into in more depth in a second, is the More Clients Club. So here's the issue. This makes sense. I'm sure you can all understand this. But the question is, well, okay, Robert, I get it, but I'm not exactly sure how to put it all together. I mean, how do I really develop a program? How do I really zero in on my clients? What's the process I have to go through? I think about it a lot, and then I just come up with, I never sort of complete it and nail it down and go for it. Worse is, I keep struggling to get the right words for my message. It's just not communicating, and I'm not getting it, or I'm not sure which strategy to use. So there's so many things that we realize when we do a plan. We discover 2 things. We discover what we need to do, and we discover all the things we don't know how to do, which is a good thing because then you can learn them. But until you have a plan, you're just all over the place. So it's a good thing and a bad thing, because it's like, wow, now I have a plan and I realize, oh my God, there's a lot of work here. There's the things I have to know. So look, the good news is you don't have to read 500 books like I did. So let me tell you about the club and how it evolved and why it's positioned as a solution to this. I started, online with my newsletter, and then I launched the InfoGuru marketing manual, and a lot of people that bought the manual said, well, I want some hands-on help, and I put together marketing action groups, And I had, groups of 20, 30, 40 people and it went for 6 months. I did 3-month programs and 6-month programs, and that evolved into the mastery program, et cetera, et cetera. And then I also did some standalone programs, and I recorded them and wrote them, et cetera. And one day I said, well, what's my next program? What am I going to do next? I mean, I've done a lot, but I feel I want something bigger. I'm really, I've got a lot of momentum here. And I was thinking of doing another big program. I'd just been studying ways to launch this stuff. And I said, why not do this? Instead of always having to launch something new, how about taking everything I've already developed and put it online as online courses and tutorials? And I said, okay, let me work with that. So I started to develop, and then I started to work nonstop. I mean, I was just writing, developing stuff for a month. And I created the whole Fast Track to More Clients program as the sort of central program. And then I threw in my Infoguru marketing manual as a PDF. Then I did 6 interviews with independent, with marketing experts. And I added this and that, and I put it on the site, and I created memberships, and I got membership software and blah, blah, blah. And that was back in 2009. Now, do you remember 2008, 2009? Remember how the economy was then? It was the worst economy ever. The stock market had crashed. The Wall Street had melted down, the housing crisis. And that's when I launched it. In fact, I launched both the club and the mastery program at pretty much the same time. I don't know how I had the energy to do it, but I did. And the next 4 years were the best I ever had in my business. I guess people were really looking for help back then because the economy was so bad. But things just took off amazingly. So for a number of years, I was very actively doing the club. And one thing I did in the club is I did what I called coaching calls. And it was a call that was about an hour and a half long, twice a month. And that was part of the club. I priced the club at $29 a month. Within about 2 months of launching it, I had about 300 members. I was generating close to $10,000 or more than $10,000 a month in the club, and things were doing well. I did the coaching calls for 6 years, and I recorded them all. And I did a ton of stuff. And so ultimately, I put all that stuff back in the club. Then a few years ago, four or so years ago, after the 6 years of coaching calls, I just got tired of coaching calls. I covered every damn topic I can possibly cover here. Just listen to them. But then the club membership started to taper off a bit, and I was doing some other programs and other things and working with individuals. And so the club kind of slowed down. Now, over the period, lots of people have become lifetime members. And right now we have over 500 members, but many of those people are lifetime members, and some of those are not so active anymore. So after I finished this 1-year program, I said, what's next? And I said, I'm going to do a sabbatical. I'm going to take some time off. And I stopped. I finished working with all the clients I was working with. I stopped working with my program, and I hired a coach. And we looked at, what's next for you, Robert? Should you retire? Should you do something else? What's up? What are you going to do? And I went through really figuring out, well, what's right for me right now? And I said, I don't want to retire. I could retire, but I don't want to. I love working with people. It's fun. It's creative. And I'm not a big traveler, and it's just I'd rather work. And as long as I can think and write, why not? So I said, why not relaunch the club? Really, even though it's still active and people are using it, just take it to the next level. So I redesigned it, and I added things, and I moved things around. I improved the navigation, and I added some things. But I didn't add those support calls, those coaching calls. But then I put out an email and said, what would you need to be in the club for you to join the club? And everybody said, I want support. So I said, okay, I guess got to surrender to it. So I said, well, why not? So I added the support call. So this is sort of the first sort of sample of a support call. It's kind of the introduction to the support calls and the club for everybody. And starting in September, twice a month, on the second and fourth Wednesdays of the month, there will be a support call. Now, I really did a lot of thinking about what I want to do differently in these support calls than I did in the coaching calls. and how to integrate that into some of the things I did in the mastery program and the reach out and touch someone program, because I've got so much experience and doing these kind of things, and some stuff works and some stuff doesn't. So the foundation of this is going to be everybody that wants to be in the coaching calls or the support sessions is they got to work on their own their 5-pillar plan, to have a 5-pillar plan. I don't want to just say, hey, well, what questions do you have about marketing today? Because if you're answering a question without the context of a plan, it's almost useless. If you have a plan, then it's useful. It's like if you have a script and you have a play, then you're working towards something. So it's a very simple system. Now I have a form here, and this is on the club now. You fill this in, you can expand it as much as you want, but really you want to get clear on your 5-pillar plan. What are the goals in clients and value proposition and strategy? And then people will share, well, this is where I am with my plan right now. Here's what I'm thinking of doing next. Let's have some discussion about that. So we'll be working forward with some real structure here, as opposed to, hey, anything goes, or here's a new aspect of marketing. You know, I might do some of those, but so much of that is already in the club. And I'll often say what you need to do is study that thing in the club. So the support sessions will be very much attached to the material in the club. Now, there's a ton of material in the club. There are 11 different tutorials. And if you actually add, I was just looking at this the other day, with all the recorded coaching calls, there are actually 6 additional courses or tutorials within the coaching calls. I did some 3-session ones, 4-session ones, 5-session ones, even 6-session courses within those old coaching calls that have materials and step-by-step instructions for every aspect of marketing you can imagine. If you have a question about marketing, the answer is in the club. The problem with the club is if you don't have support, it can be overwhelming. There's so much stuff. Where do I start? What do I do? So I wanted to create this focal point of the 5-pillar plan, start studying the first part of the club, which is the Fast Track program. You just go to that section, you read, you listen, you do an exercise. You do one to get clear about what your message is, who your ideal clients are, what your goals are, et cetera, et cetera. And by going through that Fast Track program, you'll have a pretty substantial 5-pillar plan to get started. So instead of, oh, I'm just going to listen to this interview or do that little piece, that's the random thing that just doesn't work. Fine if you do it, but it really probably isn't going to get you anywhere. You know, I'm sure there's a lot of people that join the club and they spend an hour or two here and then they never really do much. Well, we're going to provide a focal point with these meetings twice a month to help you keep on track. So that's what it's about. So, I'm going to make an offer for the club, and the offer is very simple: $9 down and $9 a month. And it's insane. I mean, I have to have a lot of people in the club for this to work for me. You know, I'd like to have 1,000. Really, I'm going for 1,000 members. But if I have a few hundred, that's fine. If I'm not making enough money for that, fine. But right now, I don't need to make, you know, when I was making $20,000, $30,000 a month, that was great, man. I did a lot of improvements to my house. I saved hundreds of thousands of dollars for retirement. Well, all that is behind me now. And I have money that I can live on even without making anything. So, you know, it's a kind of a fun, challenging, different thing to have a very low price thing so I can have as many people as possible be in this where money is not an object, and give them as much support as I possibly can. So that is what I'm doing, what I'm up to. That's the 5-pillar plan.